It's good day and welcome to another fantastic edition of 360 Sport, where you have to hear all that has to do with sports. And as we do it on the program is always local sport. So much to do to promote all the more than 36 sports federation in Nigeria. We've seen many sport stories that has to do with the federations here. And today we are bringing two particular guests in the house here already who are driving badminton in Nigeria forward. They've been doing so much to make sure that badminton is a sport to reckon it in Africa and beyond Africa. Like you do, still your boy. My name is Mudashiru Shitu. In the next few minutes, we'll be looking at many stories, starting from badminton to the Tigress, and not forgetting handball. And having by my right here today as a guest is Mr. Francis Obi, who is the president of Badminton Federation of Nigeria. It's good to have you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mudashiru.
Yeah, and also I'm having one special guest who has been. I think our life has always been about badminton. For a profile in front of me, and you can see right now, I have Mrs. Obi Sholaja. She's the first Nigerian Olympian in badminton in Atlanta '96. Before then, no Nigerian has participated in the Olympic that has to do with badminton. She's also the national badminton champion for 10 years. That's a record. And I'll say Aksa who broke that record. Perhaps she's still holding on to that record. She's also the African badminton champion for 7 years. I welcome you, Mrs. Obi Sholaja. It's good to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so it's going to be badminton to the first segment of the program before we look into basketball and also handball. Mr. Francis, this is still your first tenure as the president of Badminton Federation. I know you're the chairman of the Lagos State Badminton Federation. Was, yeah, thank you for that. So far, so good. Badminton under you, and what step are you taking to take it beyond where you met it?
Well, so far so good, like you said. That's the summary. We came in last year, July 21st, and I must say that we have a very strong board, and it's been a lot of teamwork trying to achieve so much to lift the game and to take it back to where it should really be. What has happened is that we've been able to record some level of success because of the effort we have put into planning. We recognize the fact that when you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So emphasis has been on planning, and we've been putting in so much work to try and have as many activities as possible. It was one of the campaign promises to keep the players busy with a very busy calendar. And one of the things I used to say was the fact that if you train as a player, you train from the beginning of the year to the end. If you don't have a championship to play, then you have wasted your time. So we also knew that was a major challenge before we came on board, and we decided that we're going to give it a lot of attention. So luckily, we thank God that we've been able to achieve in that area. And then also, we also recognize the fact that the game has different departments. And for the game to move the way we wanted it to move, it had to be a total package. So we have players, we have coaches, we have umpires, and referees. So we felt development of the game wasn't going to be restricted to just one part of the game. So as we are focusing on what to do to keep the players busy, get them active, and see how they can improve their game, we also look at how we can help develop our coaches, bring them up to speed, brush them up with the latest techniques and what is going on in the game. And then if you have players, you have coaches, you have a championship, if you don't have good officials to officiate, then it's not complete. So we're also doing a lot in that aspect to see how we can also bring up our umpires.
Yes, sit on you. We are doing as much as possible to make sure some of these tournaments organized in Nigeria are ranking tournaments, so to say. And I don't know whether you've achieved that or you're looking forward to make sure that whether it's Lagos Badminton Championship, I'm talking with friends to the guests outside that I want to know more about whether you have any of your program that it's a ranking program, because we know that we want to see some of our players in top ranking tournament.
We have only, when you say ranking, they are different. You can have national ranking, then you can have the world ranking. And of course, it's the world ranking you use to determine the African ranking. So what we've done for the world ranking, one, we host the Lagos International Badminton Classics, which is the flagship event of badminton in Africa. It's the biggest, it's the largest in terms of category, sanctioned by the world body. And in terms of attendance, we've set a lot of records. I mean, so many countries have come, 26, 27, and all that. So that championship, it is the highest category of championship in Africa in terms of the amount of points you garner and the prize money. So since we are hosting it, of course, naturally, our players will take advantage. Now, we've also tried to take them out to attend as many internationals as possible, especially, they say charity begins at home. So we started with the West African region, and then we go on to the African continent. To travel out of the continent to take part is more expensive, and of course, sponsorship is a challenge. So we said, let's go for the low-hanging fruits. We'll go for the ones that are a bit cheaper to be able to manage. So for 2 years now, they've gone for Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Benin Republic. And this year, like those they've done for a second time this year. This year we are doing Egypt, which we didn't do last year. We want to see if we can do Botswana this year. All these are ranking championships. And that is why our players are currently ranked number 2, number 3, and number 5 in Africa for the men. Then we have number 1 for the women, Dockers. And, so what we want to do, what we want to achieve as a board, if not possible by the end of this year, early next year, we want to come back to the pole position of badminton in Africa, number 1. We want to be number 1 in Africa, like we were during her playing
but
days.
before I now come to Africa, my next question will be African Youth Games. I want to come back to a former champion who have held that position for 10 years. And my question is, before we talk about when you were the African champion, badminton, your time, and now. I want to believe that badminton is better off than those years, because I see more participation, I see more awareness. I know some of those years I was probably a child, but I want to see there has been a lot of development. Or are you saying that those years were better off than what we're doing right now?
Well, I'll first of all say that it depends on how you want to look at it, because he made a statement and said, as a player, if you keep playing and you don't take part in any tournament, you've just wasted your time. Okay. So during my own time, I know we used to have 7, 8 national tournaments sponsored in a year. But then the prize money wasn't really anything to go by, because I remember I played some Teju phone and all I got was pillow and mattresses. Okay, biscuits in a lorry, what we were given cartons of biscuits. But that kept us going. But at the same time, we were in schools. Most of us who were in the universities, so we were combining academics and playing, but we were busy. That kept us going. So when you say my time, yes, we had a busy calendar. Then there was just this lull that by the time I retired, and just a few years after, it was like the game was like going dead, if I should say. But what we are trying to do now, like he has said, is to bring it back to life. So when you say badminton, my time, it's probably coming to life now.
So there was a space between
a lull
between the time. So what must have been the reason so that we might between your time, the value, and now?
Well, not immediately after my time, because some other lady has gone to represent Nigeria in the Olympics, and you asked for the lady that took over from me. Her name is Chris Daniels. So she also qualified and went. But it's like we said, I am the first. I am a partner. We were the first to represent Nigeria in the Olympics. But we have had another person go. So they also had their own time. But it wasn't short. It wasn't long. Like you say, 10 years, 7 years, that consistency. But they lacked that, because just about 3 or 4 years after, lack of sponsorship. And then, of course, when you say lack of sponsorship, you have to drive for it, and the sponsors must see that you also have something for them, because they must get mileage. If there's nothing on ground, there's even no activity, and then you want the sponsor to come, do what? So like it is now, we are saying this, you are saying that there are a lot of things happening in badminton. So that means that sponsors too are also, attention is being drawn to the sport.
So, but in Africa then, what are other countries? Because I still have to come to Africa, because that's very, very important.
The top countries then, we had Mauritius, we had Kenya, Nigeria. West Africa wasn't even so, Nigeria was on top of it. South Africa, we had South Africa. So it was more like South Africa, just Nigeria and West Africa. Even North Africa wasn't really in badminton during my time. It used to be Nigeria, Mauritius, Kenya, South Africa, like that. So, and then maybe Tanzania, Zambia, Mozambique, so more of South Africa, just Nigeria in West Africa. But now you can see that Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, then you are looking at Ghana, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire. So it's like badminton is actually exploding because of, without activities, there's actually nothing about any sport. Do you understand?
Okay, yeah, seriously.
So,
And still on the African Youth Games, do we see all the ace president on this? Because I know for 10 years, 7 years African badminton champion, that means we're holding the ace. We're first in West Africa, like she has said. Are we
First in
still
Africa,
holding
yeah.
the ace in badminton in West Africa, in Africa,
In West Africa, yes. In Africa, no. When we came in, I think we were about 5th or 6th in Africa. But today we are 2nd. And that's why I told you that our target as a board is to take us to the pole position, which is number 1. We are getting there.
Yes.
We'll get there. We are not holding the ace. But something you asked her, what was responsible for, after her period for the dip, what happened was we did not have a succession plan. There was no developmental program put in place to make sure, during their time, and that was what I did before I became president. I went to talk with a lot of them. I wanted to find out what made you people so successful and what were the things that were done there that made it work. And they told me at that time they had junior, intermediate, senior. So players would graduate from junior to intermediate, from intermediate to senior. So that succession was there. But after their time, there was a time for years, there was no age grade tournament, no under 15, no under 19, no intermediate, nothing, everything just. So at that time, the seniors who were good enough to dominate for a while. Then when they were fading out, nobody to take over from them. So the thing started to go. So what we are doing now is, as we are trying to develop our senior players, keep them on top, we're also looking at the younger ones. That's why we have a schools program coming. And that is going to be...
The African Youth Games in Ilorin, so much we didn't hear so much about badminton, but can you tell us what transpired at the African Youth Games
in Algeria?
African Youth Games.
The National Youth Games, in Ilorin.
Yeah, National Youth Games, badminton was there and we played under 15. We discovered some young talents. I mean, it's 13, from 14. Lagos, from Ogun, Bauchi, the future of the game. Let me just put it that way. What we are now going to do, one, it was a very good move by the ministry because we are going back to age grade tournaments now. And what they normally do, which is very good, they tell us to come, observe and watch, and then identify players we want to now. So, for example, from these youth games, we're having the All-African Secondary School Badminton Championship in Ghana in December. So that's where we are going to get our team from. Put them in camp, prepare them, they go and play for that. Then, of course, the youth games. Last year we had the youth games in Ilorin last year was under 17. It was from that championship we got bulk of the players we took to Algeria for the African Youth Games this year, and they did very well.
Okay, and I'm still going to stay in Africa right now. Part of what you guys did was the All-African Seniors in Algiers earlier. What was it? What was it like? What was the future like? Even from that, are we seeing players putting down their bats to something else, or are we seeing a new different set of players coming in? Because I know that age is one thing that has to do with being a senior when it comes to the game in Nigeria. Are we looking for a takeover ready, or there still has to be that continuity of the same set of people that have been representing us in the continent?
Yeah, what happened was when there was that law, those players who were even good on top of their game, like I said, once they were not having competitions, everybody just started going down. So what we did with Algeria, for the first time, we put our team in camp for over a month in Katsina. Now, we discovered some young players who, because we've not had competitions, both A grade and senior, they were not known. So we're taking them out for the first time. And I'll tell you that when they got to Algeria, even Chinese coaches of some other African countries were coming to meet me to ask me about those players because nobody had seen them before. They broke into the scene. And you know, in the team event, we came second. In the men's team event, we came second. In the women's team event, we came second. I mean, we had the most solid team in Algeria. But of course, some of them, because that was the first time they were going, exposure and experience. So what we've done, what we have now, the national team is a mix of experience and youth.
Okay.
We have more of the youth, then we have a few of them who are the older players, who also are still very good. So that is why our team is going to be the team to beat in Africa. In fact, it's already the team to beat in Africa. And the good thing is that early next year, we are hosting the All-African Seniors, which is like the African Cup of Nations in football, for the first time in 19 years. We hosted it last in Bauchi, year 2000. So we went to Algeria, we saw what happened there. Of course, they use all sorts of tricks, home advantage. We are not going to do that, but we're going to
be in Lagos?
No, it's going to be in Port Harcourt,
okay.
Rivers.
Yeah, I always believe that the hub of badminton in Nigeria is Lagos. But most times I keep hearing Castina, I keep hearing Castina, and there. When you check history, you see Castina. What is the hub? Which location is the hub of badminton in Nigeria?
You say hub, it depends. You see, it has moved from time and, you know, yes, from time to time. At some point, of course, we all know that badminton started in Lagos, in Nigeria.
Used to be.
And then southwest, Ogun has always been a strong, you know, contender when it comes to, you know, the strength in the game. After a while, it moved to Abuja. And for a long time, most of the national players were based, not necessarily that they are from Abuja, but because, I mean, most of, you know, you can decide which state to play for. So a lot of them were playing for FCT because FCT has always been badminton friendly. They've sponsored, a lot of times they sponsored national players who play outside the country. So a lot of players wanted to play for FCT, and that now led to the concentration of most of our national players in Abuja. So if you say hub, I won't really say we can define it or specifically pinpoint.
Perhaps I should ask, also, madam, maybe I should ask her this.
Yes.
Which states produce more of badminton players, regardless to whether they are from that state or not?
Well, to answer this, I wouldn't really say which state. Like you said, I must confess that Lagos used to be the hub in my own time, like he has explained. But you also find out that a state that is involved in developmental programs tend to have this consistent continuity in terms of who succeeds. So they're always present anytime you have a tournament, because the old is left, the young ones have taken place. So, for example, I want to use states like Ogo, Kwara, FCT, you know, even Lagos, you know. So they are always there. And that's why I wouldn't be able to say that this particular state is the state that has more presence, you know, than all the others, because these ones that, and now you are mentioning Katsina, Adamawa, Bauchi, they all, everybody is going to grassroots, to the developmental level, and that is where you know, you're having everybody visible now in the sport. And to add to what he said, you know, about the age grade tournament, what we lacked during our, what is lacking now is the fact that, you know, then, like I started, we had tournaments, even though we didn't have the prize, and even though we didn't have anything attractive to it.
Enough.
But then we also had people who were passionate about the sport, driving the sport. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
Because if you put a square peg in a round hole, you know what will happen. So we had that issue, and I'm sure maybe it's not just badminton, in other sports. Because there's really, it's not like it's a monetary something that you have a gain as per se. You are being there, so it's your passion that should be first to drive you. But when you don't have people who are that passionate, and people who also don't have much of the, I don't know how to put technical know-how and all that put together. So you just have 4 years come, go, and maybe another 4 years come. So that affected badminton too. You understand? And not only badminton, other sports. Then something that is different too, that is happening now from my own time, is that there's this thing called sportainment. You know, in my own time, you just come, play your game, then we can play 3-4 events and you go. But now it's made a little more attractive for sponsors, for the cameras, TV and all that. So now you have to put a lot of activities to attract people to come and watch, because once you have the audience and the viewers, then a sponsor is also interested in knowing what is happening in your sport.
It's live here. I'm almost carried away. I'm really having a nice time here. You could join us on all our social media handles to be part of this. You can hashtag badminton in Nigeria as part of this discussion. You've been part of Mrs. Obisulaja. It's a privilege you're here. You've been part of the organizing committee of the Lagos International Badminton Classic. I'm hoping for other classic apart from the Lagos International Classic. You tell me if you have any classic before, apart from the Lagos International Badminton Classic, and tell us what we should be expecting in the next classic.
Yeah, well, we don't have any particular event coming up as classic, because classic was actually something developed by Lagos State, and badminton happened to be part of their classic program, and that's how we have classic. But like my president told you, we have a tournament coming. We have two. One is actually in November, which is going to be a test run. That is what to expect next year, April, for the Senior African Championship that is going to be hosted here in Nigeria after 19 years.
Well, how long have you been putting that in place? Because it seems that, to me, maybe I should be thinking it's been in the cooking pot for a long time for you to say it's going to be in November. Or you think it's something that just you feel we could do because, like you said, you're in Algeria and you saw many things. How long do you have that before you became president, or how long have you been trying to make sure we have this?
Not too long. I'll tell you something. When we came on board, actually, All African Seniors was not part of our agenda as per what we wanted to do. But like I said, when we went to Algeria, we played there, and I mean, that is a gathering, like I said, it's the African Cup of Nations of badminton. And every badminton playing country in Africa comes there to want to come and prove that they are the African champion. So for me and for us, we looked at it and wow,
and
this is
challenging.
Tournament. Yes, it's a ranking. Yes, it's a ranking tournament. So we saw that, and then we got back, and the board decided that why don't we go and bid for next year's edition? Let's give it a shot. It was at that time we realized that, we are now like, okay, when last did we host it? About year 2000. 19 years? What? Okay. So what have we been doing? We've not hosted, So we said, okay, let's give it a shot. So we approached the Rivers State government and asked them, we want to go and bid for this. Of course, we are looking at it that they've hosted the African wrestling event, and they did a lot of renovation in the Civic Center, which is a very good venue. So that was what encouraged us to go, and the government said, okay, go and give it a shot. If you win the bid, we are ready to host.
And the challenges?
And we went and put in the bid. Of course, South Africa wanted it, Algeria, Egypt. No, not Algeria. Algeria just did it this year. Egypt wanted Morocco and one other country. So we came out tops, and we won the host. So as we were asking for that sponsorship, we also felt, because we've not hosted such a championship in so long, it won't be nice to just go into it. So we decided that we should have a national championship to test run the facilities, because we are going to bring in so much for this African championship. Mobile playing mats, digital scoreboards, a lot that we don't have currently. So it's even another advantage, because once we acquire those equipments, they are here to stay, and they become ours to further help develop the game. So we put that proposal across, and the Rivers State government said, okay, we would also sponsor that. So that is how come the November one is coming, because we didn't want to put it early next year because of the elections and all that. So we said, let's do that before the end of this year. Then, of course, the African thing is after the elections next year in April. Okay.
It sounds so smooth sailing here, but I know that definitely that there are challenges. For my last question for today, I'll be asking challenges, and I'll also be asking you, Mrs. Obi, where do we see badminton in the next 5 years? Mr. Francis.
Challenges, they've been, you can say it again, they've been there, right, left, and center. Some of the challenges we have faced, or the fact that, the game has been at a level for so long. So a lot of people have gotten used to so many things. So when you come in and you say, hey, guys, we want to take this to the next level, let's do this. And some will tell you, oh, no, we've done it like this. No, we're already used to that. So change has been so, I'll tell you, it has been very seriously resisted. A lot of people don't see. For the first time in our national championship, we did online entry in Nigeria. It has never happened in badminton. But it was resisted because a lot of people were not used to it. It was new. We tried, it didn't work. Try again. But they were not ready to be patient. So we are working, trying to make people understand and see. So it's been quite challenging, I must tell you. Then sponsorship. There's nothing you are going to do without money. And if you are coming from where the sport is not like football, basketball, and all that, it's not so popular, and coupled with how badly it has done in the past few years. So trying to bring it up to limelight has been quite challenging, and then getting the confidence of sponsors to want to put money. You know, what has happened in the past is a lot of sports administrators, and not only badminton, we look at how we want to get money from sponsors, and which was something she mentioned earlier. We never had focused on what we give back to the sponsors. So it has become a priority. As a board, we said, we're not just interested in getting money from people. We must give something back to them. There must be mileage, there must be value, there must be equity. You know, you don't just throw your money away. So that is the only way it is going to be sustainable. If you give me money today and you see value, next time I come, you give me again. Every year you are ready to do it. But if you give me today and you don't see value, next year you will not want to come near me. So those are, in summary, you know, those have been, they've been the challenges we've
the change, and also, and almost want to be like I was trying to be like a badminton player right now. I'm being swept off to want to be a player. Yeah, my last question on the show before we go into basketball is, where do we see badminton in the next 5 years? I know I'll probably be putting badminton the first 5 sports in Nigeria, with what I've heard so far. Because I know with what is going on, we'll see badminton almost fighting for the first 4 sports in Nigeria. But 5 years' time, where do we see badminton?
There's something that my president forgot to highlight, if I should say, and I'll just say it briefly. He went to China, and there he got us a lot of goodies: partnership, training of our players, taking them out for scholarship,
profiles,
and all that. They're coming here to get us a structure that will have 10 courts, we have offices, we have complex hostels and all that. And then they're bringing in technical people, coaches from China for exchange program. This was what I benefited from, and I can tell you, it helped us those years that I could stay as African champion for 7 years. So if we start having this now, I can tell you that they are going to exceed what we did. Because another thing too is the exposure you give to players who are young, you know, maybe going there to study. You can imagine 2 or 3 Nigerians going to China to study. By the time you give 2-3 years, you won't believe they're the same players, because they will be ranked internationally now. So 5 years, tell me about 3 years. In 3 years' time, where do I see badminton? I see specifically some of our players, male, female, being ranked in the world like we were in our days. I just want to mention one person, Samson Egbeyemi. He was the male African champion for 10 years. And he was ranked, we had about 4 players ranked internationally, men. Then we had a few of the ladies, 1 or 2 ranked internationally. But I'm telling you, in the next 3 years, with this, God helping us, with all these programs and with sponsorship, corporate Nigeria, we are appealing. We know that in 3 years' time, you can be sure. Not just having tournaments and, you know, but we will have Nigeria, like you have in table tennis. We will have our players, their names becoming compound names, household names in 3 years. Specific.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you on the show. Thank you very much, Mr. Francis. I hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Very soon. I mean that. And I know it took you so much effort from Abuja, in Lagos, to get down here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a wonderful time on the show. We want to say a big thank you for being part of the show. It's been a very wonderful time. My name still remains Mudashiru Shitu. From you to the rest of you, enjoy your day.